Okay, we're here with 2020 Accounting, and that is Dustin and Darren McNuts. We've been doing a whole series of videos on accounting for medical practices. We're focusing especially on podiatry practices because that's what they specialize in. So for this subject, we're talking about clarity, specifically financial clarity, and how that goes so well with financial advisory and accounting advisory. So let's talk a little bit about just financial clarity in general. Why is this so important for a growing practice?
Sure. So you start off, you've got to know your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to know what your numbers were, so you know where you've been.
Yeah.
You also need to know them on where you're going.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to set goals and make decisions to meet those goals.
Yeah.
And really knowing where you're going provides the financial clarity to get you where you want to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just floundering. And, I see so many people overworked and underpaid in podiatry, seeing 30, 35 patients a day. It's really tough. You know, it's tough to go home at 8:00 at night and still end up having to do your notes at the end of the night. It's hard. You need to be able to have a plan that gets you out of that, yet still makes you profitable. Working harder can't always be the solution.
Yeah.
When a company or practice is starting, so much of the attention just goes on revenue, which it is well
important.
placed. It's well placed early, first, at the very beginning. You've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to the business than that. I've heard the saying, and I love it, is revenue is vanity, profit sanity, and cash is king.
Oh, okay.
And I love that saying because it points out that there's so much more than just that top line number. There's everything in between, and you have to understand all that in order to get beyond that beginning phase where you're just trying to get those first dollars.
Yeah, you're just trying to survive in the beginning, right?
Right.
So it's all about how much money you can make, but you're not really thinking about the other expenses and other things, other opportunities that are sort of in front of you, right?
You have to be clear on the whole business.
On the whole thing, yeah. So what are like the top financial metrics that a business owner needs to be paying attention to? And then on the flip side of that, where do you see them overlooking the most?
The top metrics I look at would be revenue growth.
Okay.
It would be gross margin. You need to look at your labor and your overhead percentages, and then your cash position. Those are the ones that there's so much more that flow into that, but that's where I start with everything.
Okay. Those are kind of the bones of it. Yeah. What about you?
So I would look at it in a sense of owner's time versus profit, and looking at what can decrease that owner's time yet increase that profit.
Yeah, that seems like a great thing to figure out.
Right. Because, if you're running a business that only runs on your time, you're building your own jail.
100%. And I mean, how many doctors have built their own jail?
Man, do you see that a lot?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And it's a mindset shift that when it clicks, it may take a little bit to implement, but they start making different decisions. And those decisions are going to be beneficial, down the long haul. It's not just a decision for next week. It's changing your life.
Yeah. What's typically the trigger for them to come to you? At what point of their journey in owning this practice do you typically meet them?
So I think they've made a little bit of money. They've figured out that they're working hard. They're probably running into some cash flow issues here and there. Maybe have a tax liability that jumps up and bites them that they didn't see coming.
Yeah.
And they just know that they're working really hard, but not feeling like they're getting what they need to out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you agree, or do you see something different?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There's usually some pain point that sends them to our door. I oftentimes see, that large tax bill being what gets them to make a move.
Yeah.
Or just being overworked and not really knowing why.
And just thinking this can't be it.
This can't be it.
Yeah.
There's got to be some more fruit to my labor. And
yeah. We have a whole other video about tax planning that you should definitely watch if you haven't already. It's really good stuff. And speaking of, describe to me a little bit about how your role kind of goes beyond tax prep. I think that's probably a huge pain point for any practice owner. It's just the whole tax process, not knowing what they don't know, right? And so I'm sure they're coming to you for that, but I know that what you do goes far beyond just tax preparation. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Tax really is just a part of a business.
Yeah.
The entire world in which we work is the finance, accounting, and wealth management. And so, from the finance and accounting standpoint, that's when we're helping you manage the business, manage those ratios, manage those KPIs you're speaking of, and understanding the context of your numbers, as well as projecting into the future and putting a windshield, on your business.
Yeah.
That's so very much important from like I said, an accounting and finance standpoint. And then once the money has come into your business and flowed through to you personally, well, then now what do you do with it? And that's where we step in and help from a financial planning standpoint.
Yeah.
And can help you build wealth and build that legacy that you're wanting to build.
There's a lot of layers to it. I feel like it's just a lot of nuance.
If you're just getting tax prep and financials that are done at the end of the year, there's not a ton of value in that.
Okay.
The value's in the advisory,
The relationship
that actually impacts those numbers.
So everything that comes before that.
Everything that comes before that determines, your tax liability. It also determines what decisions you've made to make yourself more profitable.
Yeah.
I'd say we end up with clients who have a clear plan. They have happier employees, less turnover, and overall a better work-life balance.
Yeah. So you're really making a much bigger difference than, quote, just the accounting.
Right.
It goes a long way beyond that.
Absolutely.
Right. If you look at just the accounting, you're going to look at it as a true, just a cost, something that you have to do at the end of the year. It doesn't impact your numbers that way, it doesn't impact your business. But an accounting relationship is different. That should impact your numbers and should make you more profitable, should make you have that better work-life balance that you're looking for, and have happier employees with less turnover.
Yeah, and it bleeds into operations. When you see in the numbers where you're falling short, where you're not hitting the metrics, that tells you where to operationally change and make changes in your business that go beyond those numbers.
That's great. I think it's amazing what a story it tells, and how you just need an expert eye to be able to tell you that story, right? Because I'm sure it's hard to pull out of that data unless you know what you're looking at.
Right.
Yeah. So in your day-to-day relationships with your clients, talk to me a little bit about what it looks like to advise them. So you were talking about everything that comes before the taxes are filed. Can you kind of give me an idea of what that would look like for a client of yours?
Sure. So, a lot of work goes into the preparation of the meetings with the clients. So we go into the meetings with, a budget that's created at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And again, that's how we measure success or failure over the course of a year. But then there's the forecast, which is going to allow us to see if we tweak this knob, what's going to happen. Or if we do make a decision, where are we going to go with that decision?
Yeah.
And what all is it going to impact? Is it a good decision or not?
Yeah.
Also, we've looked at the tax implications of all those decisions.
Yeah.
So you're able to make, the powers with the business owner, the powers with the podiatrist.
Yeah.
They can make the decisions, but they make them knowing what the ramifications are going to be.
Knowledge is power. Who said that? G.I. Joe?
Oftentimes I'll have clients come on and I can tell when a client's had a relationship with a very reactive accountant in the past. They come in.
Really?
Oh yeah, because they come in, they start trying to have a plan. They start trying to direct the relationship because they're only used to there being a void there. They're used to having to take that leadership role.
Okay.
One of the things our clients see as soon as they step in from day one, from the moment they sign off, is they get swept up in the process.
Wow.
Immediately they start getting emails like, we're meeting this day, and then we're meeting this day, and then we're meeting this day, and then I need you to do this, this, and this. And we introduce them to the team.
You guys are just taking the reins.
And usually after that first or second meeting, you start seeing that grip that they have let go, and they start realizing, oh, y'all got this. Y'all have.
They start
a plan.
breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that goes back to just them feeling that relief, that anxiety starts letting go. They don't have to run the show on something they don't understand.
Gosh, that sounds great.
Right. And it allows them to take the reins on the important things. It allows them to make the decisions that start the initiatives that are really going to move the needle.
And do what they wanted to do in the first place, which is run their practice.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. When someone, you were talking about just now, clients who come in feeling like they have to run the show and they're not used to someone kind of taking charge of that. How do you help them shift from that kind of, I have to do it all myself mindset to just sit back. We've got this. We're gonna make this all work for you. How do you get them there?
In my experience, it's usually been after that first introductory meeting where they get to meet the entire team and they see how many people are backing them up and how many people already know their marching orders and are already working on their behalf.
Yeah.
That's when they start going, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
So it's different right from the start.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. There's a playbook.
Okay.
And we run the playbook and it works.
Yeah. And they just have to sit back and trust the process.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I bet that's a breath of fresh air to them too. I know that you have a million stories about how you've helped your clients. Is there one that sticks out to you where your guidance and your expertise helped them to make a really key decision for their business that kind of changed the game for them?
Yeah. I mean, I can think of one right off the top of my head.
Okay.
Coming to us, he felt like he had a sales problem. He just needed to make more sales.
Okay.
And we sat down and looked at his numbers and realized there was more of a margin problem. Okay. Which was interesting because he was being in the medical field. The sales he makes are very payer driven. He doesn't get to change the pricing. So we sat down and figured, what can we do? What levers do we have to pull on this? And it was really just a shift in the services that he was focusing on. And through just shifting that service, he was able to increase those margins to get in line with what his peers were doing and get that increase in the net income that he'd been trying so hard but pulling the wrong levers for years to hit.
Wow. So it wasn't even necessarily accounting service that changed that. It was business advisory services.
Exactly.
So you guys are going above just simple, and I know none of it is simple accounting, but you're doing a lot more than the accounting piece. You're doing much more of an advisory piece.
Right. I had a client that came to me and they were doing quite a few grafts, and grafts can be extremely profitable for podiatrists. And the issue that he had was the cost of the grafts weren't recognized in the same period that the revenue for the grafts were.
Okay.
And so he was ended up with pretty significant tax liabilities, significant cash flow issues, and we were able to look and truly analyze his business to see how we can fix that issue. And we were able to fix it. He still was able to do the grafts that made him super profitable. Yeah. But he was able to do it in a way that he didn't end up with really tough cash flow issues.
Yeah.
And so that was a pretty big success story.
Yeah, that's great. So when a client finally starts to understand the numbers that are associated with their business and their cash flow, and they start to trust what's in front of them, trust you guys, trust what's going on, trust the process, what do you see in them as far as a shift, like a mindset shift or maybe even a lifestyle shift? Like, what have you seen from your clients in that way?
Sure. I see a shift from them going, okay, I've got to see this number of patients and I've got to grow to I've got to grow in the right way. And I think they've become better physicians because they're able to focus on therapies that make sense to them. Yeah. I think they're able to really change the way they do business to make it to where it's not reactionary. Yeah. They actually plan, hey, this is the life that I want to live. Yeah. And so this is how I'm going to do it. And it gives them clarity to be able to make solid decisions and see the fruits of those labors.
The word that I think of is agency. They have so much agency in their life when they have that information, right?
You know, what I've seen is it's kind of fun and funny to see how curious they get, how many more questions they start asking, because they're like, okay, you gave me these answers before and it made me this amount much more money.
Yeah. What else?
So what else? Like I was looking at his financials and I saw this. What can you tell me about that? Like they start digging in, they start seeing the fruits of that, and they start getting really curious about those numbers. And
it starts to get
it's fun to start seeing that light, light bulb right above their head.
I bet that's very rewarding for you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see that they're surprised. It's not always, hey, cut on this, cut on that. It's spend money on the right things. And, seeing that it's not always the advice that they thought they would get. They can be surprised by it, but then the light bulb clicks and it makes sense to them. And that's probably the most rewarding for me is when I see someone make a change that they would not have made otherwise.
Well, and they start to get so hopeful. That everything they wanted this to be, it actually can be. They just have to be able to make the smart decisions. And they can't do that until they get the information that you guys are revealing to them, right?
Right.
The story you're helping them pull out of this data.
100%. Seeing the benchmarking, with their peer group. And the idea is not for them to be, equal to the benchmark. It's for them to be better than the benchmark.
Yeah.
Let's figure out how to do that.
Yeah. Give them a reference point where they can say, wow, I'm actually above that now.
Yeah.
That's great. So we've been talking about clarity, financial clarity, and how that relates to being advised in your business. All the things that financial clarity can reveal to you about your business and how it can make some exciting opportunities come to light that you didn't even know existed. So again, this is Darren and Dustin McNutt from 2020 Accounting. Their website is 2020acct.com. Please go and visit that and take a look at everything they can do for you. I know they would love to work with you.